The sleek diplomatic vessel, Harmony's Edge, limped through the void of space, its once pristine white hull now a patchwork of burn marks and twisted metal. Emergency beacons flashed red against the darkness as the ship struggled toward Earth's orbital defense grid. What should have been a triumphant return from humanity's first major diplomatic mission had become something else entirely. Captain Lee Dong-hyun watched from the bridge of the orbital station New Seoul as the damaged ship approached. Control. Tower to Harmony's Edge. We have you on visual. Your ship looks like it went through hell. What's your status? Static crackled through the comm system before a weak voice responded. This is Commander Kim Woo-jin, requesting immediate medical assistance and emergency council session. Priority Alpha. Dong-hyun frowned. Something in Woo-jin's voice sent chills down his spine. The commander who had left Earth 3 years ago had been the embodiment of human confidence, tall, proud, with a voice that could command respect from any room. This voice was different, broken. Within hours, the diplomatic corps had assembled in Lunar Station's main docking bay. President Park Min-ho stood with his cabinet, Defense Minister Kang Soo-jung, and dozens of Earth's most important officials. They had all come to welcome back humanity's greatest ambassador, the man who had spent 3 years negotiating with the mysterious Zephyrian Confederation. The airlock hissed open with a mechanical wheeze. Steam poured out from the pressurization system, and through the white mist a figure emerged. The collective gasp that rose from the assembled crowd echoed through the docking bay like a physical blow. The man who stumbled out barely resembled the commander Kim Woo-jin, who had departed Earth with such hope. His left arm was completely gone, replaced by a crude mechanical limb that sparked and jerked with each movement. The prosthetic was clearly alien in design, purple metal joints that clicked unnaturally, with exposed wiring that pulsed with sickly green light. It looked more like a torture device than a replacement limb. Burns covered the left side of his face, the skin mottled and scarred in patterns that spoke of deliberate, methodical torture. His right eye was clouded, the pupil dilated and unresponsive. But it was his expression that truly horrified the onlookers, the hollow, distant stare of someone who had seen the absolute worst that the galaxy had to offer. "Dear God," whispered Minister Kang, her hand covering her mouth. Woo-jin's remaining organic hand trembled as he tried to salute President Park. The mechanical arm twitched violently, sending sparks cascading to the floor. He winced as electrical feedback coursed through the neural connections. "Mr. President," Woo-jin began, his voice barely above a whisper. The confident baritone that had once inspired millions was now cracked and fragile. I bring a message from the Zephyrian Confederation." President Park stepped forward, his face pale but determined. "Commander, you need medical attention first. We can debrief later." "No." Woo-jin's good eye fixed on the president with desperate intensity. "You need to hear this now. They're coming." The docking bay fell silent, except for the mechanical whirring of life support systems and the irregular sparking of Woo-jin's alien prosthetic. Even the maintenance robots seemed to pause in their duties. "They want complete surrender," Woo-jin continued, each word seeming to cost him tremendous effort. "Not negotiation, not compromise, surrender. They want us to abandon our outer colonies, submit to their rule, accept vassal status." His voice cracked as tears began to flow from his organic eye. "They want everything, Mr. President. Our freedom, our dignity, our future." Defense Minister Kang stepped forward. "What happened to you out there, Commander?" Woo-jin's mechanical arm jerked again, this time so violently that he nearly lost his balance. The green lights pulsing through the wiring seemed to sync with his heartbeat, creating an eerie rhythm. "They called it conditioning," he said, his voice hollow. 3 years of it. They said humans needed to understand their place in the galaxy. They said I would be their message to Earth." He looked down at his sparking prosthetic. "This isn't medical aid, it's a demonstration. Every spark, every malfunction, it's intentional. They want you to see what happens to humans who resist." President Park's jaw tightened. Around the bay, military officers' hands instinctively moved toward their sidearms. The implications were clear. "They sent me back like this as a warning," Woo-jin whispered. "But, Mr. President, there's something they don't understand about humans. something they never learned in all their years of conquering other species. What's that, Commander? For the first time since emerging from the airlock, something resembling Wu Jin's old fire flickered in his remaining good eye. They think this will break us. They think showing us their cruelty will make us submit. He straightened slightly, his organic hand clenching into a fist. They don't realize they've just given humanity exactly what it needed. The council chamber fell completely silent, except for the mechanical whirring of Wu Jin's failing prosthetics and the distant hum of the space station's engines. But in that silence, something new was being born. A cold, determined fury that would soon spread across every human world in the galaxy. The holographic image flickered across 10,000 screens simultaneously. From the bustling colonies of Mars to the ice mining stations of Europa, from the asteroid belt factories to the farming domes of Titan, every human in the galaxy watched the same transmission. Commander Kim Woo-jin stood before the Earth Council, his broken form telling a story that words never could. On Mars Colony 7, construction worker Lee Tai-ho was welding support beams for the new habitat dome when the emergency broadcast cut through all channels. He lowered his plasma torch and watched in stunned silence as Woo-jin's mechanical arms sparked and twitched. The prosthetic sickly green lights pulsed like a heartbeat of pain. "Those alien bastards," Tai-ho muttered, his hands clenching into fists. Around him, dozens of other workers had stopped their tasks, all staring at the screens mounted throughout the construction site. The foreman, Kim Jong-soo, was openly weeping as Woo-jin described 3 years of systematic torture. When the transmission ended, Tai-ho threw down his welding torch so hard it clattered across the metal platform. "I'm done building," he announced to his stunned co-workers. Time to start destroying. Within minutes, he was marching toward the Mars Defense Corps recruitment center, and he wasn't alone. Behind him streamed hundreds of construction workers, their hard hats abandoned, their faces set with grim determination. 600 million kilometers away on Europa Station, engineer Choi So-min watched the same broadcast from her workshop beneath the ice. She specialized in mining equipment, massive laser drills designed to cut through Europa's frozen crust to reach the ocean below. But as she stared at Woo-jin's tortured face, her engineer's mind was already racing with different possibilities. "Hey, Park Sung-ho," she called to her assistant, who was still staring at the screen in shock. "How much power does the Mark 7 mining laser generate?" About 50,000 watts, he replied absently. "Why?" So-min pulled up the technical specifications on her computer. "And what's the focusing array rated for?" "Maximum precision." "At 2 kilometers, but So-min, why are you—" Park stopped mid-sentence as understanding dawned on his face. "You want to turn mining equipment into weapons?" "Not just want to," So-min said, her fingers already dancing across the keyboard. "Going to. Those alien monsters think they can torture our people and send them back as warnings? Let me show them how a human engineer responds to threats." Within hours, So-min had uploaded her weapon conversion blueprints to the colony's public network. Mining lasers became ship-mounted cannons, excavation charges became torpedo warheads, atmospheric processors became chemical weapon factories. Her modifications spread through the outer colonies like wildfire. At Lunar Command, Admiral Han Ji-woo stood before a wall of communication screens that painted the story of humanity's awakening in real time. Green lights indicated active recruitment. Centers, there were thousands of them now all across human space. Blue indicators showed civilian ships requesting military hardware installations. Red markers tracked the movement of volunteer fleets assembling at rally points. "Admiral," reported her communications officer, Lieutenant Yoon Do-hyun. "We're getting reports from every colony. Titan's agricultural domes have stopped food production and started manufacturing explosive compounds. The asteroid miners are converting their cargo haulers into troop transports. Even the research stations are contributing. They're developing new armor alloys and shield technologies." Ji-woo nodded, her weathered face reflecting years of military service. She had fought in the Martian Independence War, commanded ships during the Europa crisis, and led the expedition that first made contact with alien civilizations. But she had never seen anything like this. "Ma'am," another officer interrupted, "we're receiving priority messages from the Outer Rim. The frontier colonies are requesting permission to militarize their entire populations. Granted, Ji-woo said without hesitation. Send them everything they need. Her chief of staff, Commander Lim Hai-jin, approached with a concerned expression. Admiral, our logistics computers are overloaded. We have more volunteers than ships, more ships than weapons, more weapons than trained crews. This mobilization is happening faster than our systems can handle. Ji-woo smiled grimly. Then we improvise. What do you think those aliens are seeing when they look at our response? Before Hai-jin could answer, the main screen flickered to show an intercepted alien transmission. The Zephyrian High Command was in session. Their crystalline forms gathered around a holographic display of human space. The translator rendered their clicking, harmonic language into human speech. Observe the primitive human's reaction, the lead Zephyrian was saying. They gather their forces like insects swarming to protect a damaged hive. Their emotional response blinds them to tactical reality. Another alien shape pulsed with what seemed like amusement. The broken one served his purpose well. Soon they will exhaust themselves in futile preparations, making conquest even simpler. Their ships are crude, their weapons primitive, a third voice added. Intelligence reports indicate they fight with emotion rather than logic. Such weakness cannot threaten the Confederation. The transmission ended, and Ji-woo's command center fell silent. Then slowly laughter began to ripple through the room. Not the laughter of amusement, but something darker, colder. They think we're weak because we feel, Ji-woo said to her assembled staff. They don't understand that our emotions don't make us weaker. They make us dangerous. She turned to face the galaxy map displaying the massive human fleet gathering at the edge of known space. Send a message to all commanders. Tell them the sleeping giant is awake and it's time to show these aliens what happens when you mistake human compassion for human weakness. The lights on the tactical display pulsed like stars being born. Across human space, the greatest military mobilization in galactic history was gathering momentum, fueled not by conquest or greed, but by something the aliens couldn't comprehend. The fury of a species that had been pushed too far. The Zephyrian First Fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system like a silver storm cloud. 60 massive battleships, each one kilometers long and bristling with energy cannons that could crack planets. Admiral Thekvani's crystalline form pulsed with satisfaction as tactical displays showed the puny human defenses, a handful of converted cargo ships and mining vessels. "Begin standard bombardment protocol," Thekvani commanded, his harmonic voice resonating through the flagship's crystal chambers. "Disable their defensive platforms, then demand surrender. The humans will submit once they see our power." What the aliens didn't expect was Captain Yoon Da-un. Her ship, the converted freighter Iron Will, looked pathetic compared to the alien dreadnoughts. Originally designed to haul grain from the agricultural worlds, it now carried something very different in its cargo holds. Every explosive compound the human colonies could manufacture, packed into a delivery system that would make the aliens remember humanity forever. "All hands, this is the captain," Da-un announced over the ship's intercom. Her crew of 40 volunteers had all seen Commander Wu Jin's transmission. They knew what the aliens were capable of. "We're outnumbered 60-1. Our weapons can't penetrate their shields. By every military textbook ever written, we should surrender." She paused, watching the alien fleet arrange itself in perfect formation. Their movements precise and calculated, like a dance they had performed 1,000 times before. "But we're not fighting by their rules today." Da-un slammed the throttle. Forward. The Iron Will shot toward the alien flagship like a bullet, its improvised armor plates glowing red-hot from the acceleration. Alien energy beams lanced out, striking the human ship, but Da-un kept coming. Her hull cracked and vented atmosphere, but the explosives in her cargo hold remained intact. "For Wu Jin," she screamed into her communicator. "For humanity!" The Iron Will smashed into the alien flagship's bridge section at 17% of light speed. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star, vaporizing both ships instantly and sending shockwaves through the entire alien fleet. On the Zephyrian command ship, Crystal Harmony, Admiral Thekvani's form flickered with what humans would recognize as panic. Impossible. They destroyed themselves just to damage one of our vessels. But that was only the beginning. The remaining human ships charged directly into the alien formation. The cargo hauler New Busan, commanded by Captain Kim Min-woo, plowed through 3 Zephyrian destroyers before exploding. The mining ship, Deep Digger, used its industrial lasers to slice through alien hulls at point-blank range, its crew singing ancient Korean folk songs over the radio as they died. "This is irrational," Thekvani's tactical officer reported. "They're using suicide tactics. No civilized species fights this way." The aliens were right. In 10,000 years of galactic warfare, no species had ever employed such tactics. When facing superior numbers, civilized races negotiated. When their ships were disabled, they surrendered. When defeat was certain, they retreated to fight. Another day. Humans did none of these things. On the mining colony of Kepler 442b, the alien ground forces expected easy victory. The settlement had no military defenses, just 3,000 civilian miners and their families. But when the Zephyrian dropships landed, they found something they couldn't have imagined. Colony Administrator Park Jae-sung stood in the main square, surrounded by every man, woman, and child in the settlement. In his hands was a detonator connected to the fusion reactor that powered their entire operation. "You want our world?" he called out to the approaching alien warriors. "Come and take it." The explosion could be seen from orbit. The same scene played out across dozens of colonies. Rather than submit to alien rule, humans chose annihilation. Entire worlds triggered their own destruction rather than become slaves. The aliens, who had conquered hundreds of species through fear and intimidation, couldn't comprehend this response. In the asteroid belt, Lieutenant Colonel Bae Suho was pioneering a completely different kind of warfare. His squadron of 12 modified mining ships hid among the rocks of the Ceres field, using the asteroid's metal content to mask their heat signatures. When Zephyrian patrol fleets passed through, Suho's forces would emerge like ghosts. "Remember," he told his pilots before each attack, "we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to drive them insane." His ship, the Stone Fury, darted between asteroids with impossible agility. The aliens' massive vessels couldn't follow, their sensors confused by the chaotic environment. Suho would strike at the rear of their formations, destroying supply ships and communication relays before vanishing back into the asteroid field. "Target their logistics," he radioed to his squadron. "Make them afraid to travel alone. Make them jump at shadows." The psychological warfare was devastatingly effective. Zephyrian crews began reporting human ships where none existed. Their formation discipline broke down as commanders became paranoid about ambushes. Entire fleets would fire on empty space, convinced they were under attack. On the alien command ship, Thekvani studied the tactical reports with growing alarm. "Our computers predict their next move, but they don't follow prediction patterns. They attack when they should retreat. They sacrifice valuable resources for minimal gains. How do we fight enemies who don't behave rationally?" His chief strategist's crystalline form pulsed nervously. "Admiral, perhaps we should request reinforcements. These humans fight like wild animals." But that wasn't quite right either. Animals fought for survival. Humans were fighting for something else entirely. For the memory of a broken ambassador, for the principle that some things were worth dying for the simple idea that no one had the right to make them kneel. As reports flooded in from across the war zone, one thing became clear. Humanity wasn't just fighting a war. They were rewriting the rules of galactic conflict, one impossible victory at a time. The battle for the Altair system had been raging for 6 days when Captain Oh Hye-jin made a discovery that would change the course of the war. Her cruiser, Righteous. Dawn had just finished mopping up the remnants of a Zephyrian supply convoy when her sensors detected something unexpected. A massive refugee ship drifting powerless in space. "Captain," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Park Se-jun, "the vessel appears to be carrying Velthari civilians. They're broadcasting distress signals in multiple languages." Hye-jin studied the alien ship through her view screen. The Velthari were one of dozens of species enslaved by the Confederation, forced to serve as laborers and soldiers. Intelligence reports suggested they had been conquered nearly 3 centuries ago, their homeworld strip-mined for resources, while their people were scattered across Confederation space. Life support is failing, Sijun continued. They have maybe 2 hours of breathable atmosphere left. Any Confederation ships in the area? Negative, Captain. Looks like they abandoned these civilians when our fleet arrived. Hyojin didn't hesitate. Bring us alongside, prepare medical teams and emergency supplies. Her first officer, Commander Nam Gi Tai, looked surprised. Captain, these aren't human civilians. Command can question me. Later, Hyojin interrupted. Right now, people are dying and we have the power to save them. The docking procedure took precious minutes as the Righteous Dawn's crew worked to establish an airlock connection with the alien vessel. When the doors finally opened, Hyojin was met by a sight that would haunt her dreams. Hundreds of Velthari families huddled in the dark, their large, luminous eyes reflecting the emergency lighting. Their skin had a translucent quality, showing the network of vessels beneath, and many were clearly ill or injured. The Velthari elder who greeted her was barely upright, his breathing labored. Through a universal translator, he spoke in a voice filled with resignation. Human warriors, we understand if you wish to dispose of us. We are property of your enemies. Hyojin removed her helmet, showing her face to the assembled aliens. You're not property. You're people, and people deserve help when they need it. What followed was captured by the combat recorders every human ship carried. The footage showed Korean medical personnel working alongside Velthari families, sharing oxygen supplies and food rations. Hyojin personally helped carry injured Velthari children to the medical bay, her crew singing lullabies to calm the frightened youngsters. The most powerful moment came when a dying Velthari female clutched Hyojin's hand and whispered, "Why? Do you help us? Your species fights the Confederation too." "Because that's what my people do," Hyojin replied simply. "We help those who need help." The refugee ship's communication system had been broadcasting everything across multiple frequencies. Within hours, the footage reached Confederation space, where billions of enslaved beings watched humans treating their enemies' victims with compassion. On the Velthari labor world of Kepler 629c, workers in the crystal mines stopped their drilling to watch the transmission on smuggled receivers. Foreman Velkani, whose family had been enslaved for 12 generations, stared at the screen in amazement. "Look how they treat our people," he whispered to his crew. "When did you last see a Confederation officer show such kindness to anyone?" The key answer was never. The Confederation ruled through fear and brutality. Disobedient slaves were executed. Sick workers were discarded. Children were separated from parents without thought or care. But here were humans, the same species the Confederation called savage primitives, risking their lives to save alien refugees they had never met. Within days, the first defections began. A Velthari construction fleet working on Confederation fortifications suddenly turned their industrial equipment on their overseers. A squadron of enslaved Karathi pilots switched sides mid-battle, their ships targeting Confederation vessels instead of human ones. Admiral Han Ji-woo watched the intelligence report stream in from her command ship. Each defection brought new information about Confederation weaknesses, supply lines, and military strategies. But more importantly, each defection brought new allies who understood what humanity was truly fighting for. Admiral, her intelligence, Chief Commander Shin Young-ho reported, "We're receiving communication requests from 17 different species across Confederation space. They want to know if our offer of alliance is genuine." Ji-woo activated the galaxy-wide broadcast system. Her image appeared on screens across hundreds of worlds as she addressed not just humans, but every sentient being within reach of the signal. "To all those who have lived under the Confederation's boot," she began, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had seen too much war and too much suffering, "we want you to know that humanity offers you a choice. We don't fight to replace one empire with another. We fight for the right of all beings to determine their own destiny." She paused, looking directly into the camera. "We've seen what the Confederation does to prisoners. We've witnessed their cruelty. But we also want you to see what humanity offers: Dignity, freedom, and the chance to build something better together. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Entire sectors began to revolt against their Confederation overseers. Supply lines collapsed as enslaved workers sabotaged their own facilities. Military units found themselves fighting rebellions on a dozen fronts simultaneously. On the Confederation capital world of Zephyr Prime, High Admiral Morthak's crystalline form flickered with panic as he studied the tactical displays. Red warning. Indicators covered half the galaxy, each one representing a world in rebellion. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his staff. "These species have been pacified for centuries. They fear us." His chief strategist, General Kekmari, pulsed with uncertainty. "The humans changed the equation, Admiral. They showed mercy where we showed only strength. They offered hope where we offered only submission. But they're primitives, their technology is inferior, their tactics are chaotic." "Yes," Kekmari agreed, "but they understand something we never learned. They know that conquest built on fear will always be fragile, while alliances built on respect can endure anything." As if to prove his point, another sector flashed red on the tactical display. The Mordanic hegemony, loyal Confederation allies for 800 years, had just declared independence and joined the human coalition. For the first time in its 1,000-year history, the Zephyrian Confederation was learning what it meant to be afraid. The final battle above Zephyr Prime painted the sky in brilliant flashes of plasma fire and exploding starships. The massive Confederation homeworld hung like a jewel beneath the chaos, its crystal cities gleaming as the fate of the galaxy was decided in the void above. Commander Kim Woo-jin stood on the bridge of the assault ship Retribution, watching the tactical displays with eyes that had seen too much. His new prosthetics were a marvel of human engineering, sleek, responsive, and built with care rather than cruelty. The mechanical arm that had once sparked with alien malice now moved with fluid precision, responding to his thoughts as naturally as his original limb ever had. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, Lieutenant Song Hai-rim, "the Confederation's orbital defense platforms are down. Admiral Jiwoo's main fleet has broken through their outer perimeter. We have a clear path to the capital." Around them, the bridge crew of the elite strike force Ghost Battalion, prepared for what they all knew would be the war's defining moment. These weren't regular soldiers. They were volunteers who had lost everything to Confederation brutality. Each one carried scars, visible or hidden, from the aliens' 3-year reign of terror. "Captain Lee In-ho, status report on the ground assault teams," Woo-jin commanded. "All squads are in position, sir. The Velthari resistance has secured the government district. Former Confederation slave battalions are holding the spaceports. The city is surrounded." Through the view screen, Woo-jin could see the crystalline spires of the Confederation High Command building rising from the center of Zephyr Prime's capital city. It was there in those gleaming towers that the decision had been made to torture him for 3 years. It was there that the orders had gone out to execute human prisoners and enslave entire worlds. "Sir," Hai-rim interrupted his thoughts, "we're receiving a transmission from the High Command. They're asking to negotiate." Woo-jin almost smiled. "Put them through." The main screen flickered to show the interior of the Confederation Council chamber. The alien High Council sat in their crystal thrones, their translucent forms pulsing with colors that Woo-jin had learned to read during his captivity. Fear. Desperation. The kind of panic that came when absolute power suddenly crumbled. High Admiral Morthak's harmonic voice carried through the speaker, translated into Korean. "Human Commander, we wish to discuss terms. Perhaps we can reach an accommodation?" "No." Woo-jin's voice cut through the alien's words like a blade. "There will be no negotiation. You had 3 years to negotiate when I was your prisoner. You chose torture instead." The Gi. Aliens' forms flickered more rapidly. They had never heard such cold authority from a human voice. "We are prepared to offer significant concessions," another council member added quickly. "Resource rights, territorial adjustments, perhaps even reparations." "Surrender," Woo-jin said simply, the word hanging in the space between them like a death sentence. The council chamber fell silent. Through the view screen, Wu Jin could see the alien leaders exchanging what he recognized as panicked communications. Their harmonic language buzzed and clicked with increasing desperation. "Commander," Morthak finally responded, "surely you don't expect us to simply submit to human authority. We are the Confederation. We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years." Wu Jin leaned forward, his prosthetic hand gripping the communication console. "And in 1,000 years you never learned the difference between ruling and leading. You conquered through fear. You maintained power through cruelty. You turned entire species into slaves because you believed strength gave you the right." He paused, his organic eye meeting the alien leader's gaze through the screen. "We offer you something you never offered us. Mercy." The words hit the council chamber like a physical blow. Around the alien leaders, their subordinates' forms pulsed. With confusion and disbelief. "You're offering us mercy?" General Kekmari asked, his voice barely audible through the translator. "After everything we did? After what we did to you?" Wu Jin stood, his mechanical arm moving smoothly as he clasped his hands behind his back. "We didn't want this war. We wanted to explore the galaxy, to learn from other species, to build something better together. You forced us to become warriors when all we wanted to be were friends." On the tactical display, the last Confederation battleship surrendered to Admiral Jiwoo's fleet. Across the galaxy, enslaved worlds were celebrating their freedom. The 1,000-year reign of the Confederation was ending not with the destruction of their homeworld, but with a choice. "We learned something during this war," Wu Jin continued, "something you never understood. Mercy isn't weakness, it's a choice. You took that choice away from us when you decided to rule through fear. But we're giving it back to you now." High Admiral Morthak's crystalline form seemed to dim as the weight of defeat settled over him. "What do you want from us?" "Acknowledgement. That every species has the right to determine its own destiny. Release of all enslaved populations. Reparations for the damage you've caused. And most importantly," Wu Jin's voice hardened, "a promise that this galaxy will never again see the kind of cruelty you inflicted on my people." The negotiations that followed lasted 6 hours. When the surrender documents were finally signed, they weren't just a treaty between two warring powers, they became the foundation of a new galactic order. The Confederation's member species voted to dissolve their empire, choosing instead to join a voluntary alliance based on mutual respect and shared governance. Months later, Wu Jin stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Council headquarters, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the station. Former enemies worked side by side, building something that had never existed before, a truly free galaxy. Admiral Jiwoo joined him at the viewport. "Any regrets, Commander?" Wu Jin flexed his prosthetic fingers, feeling the smooth response of human engineering. "I regret that it took war to teach them what we could have shown them through peace. But I don't regret that we chose mercy when we had the power to choose otherwise." Below them, the diverse species of the galaxy continued their work, proving that humanity's greatest victory wasn't their capacity for war, it was their refusal to let war consume their souls. The broken diplomat who had returned to Earth as a symbol of alien cruelty had become the architect of an age where such cruelty could never again flourish. In the end, humanity had given the galaxy exactly what it needed, not another empire, built on fear but a choice to build something better together. The end.